Hello, grade 9s. Welcome to this online video where I'll be talking about fertilization. So let's get right underway. We're going to start this lesson off with a discussion about the difference between internal and external fertilization. And this was covered in my previous video. So if you have not had a chance to see my previous video, definitely check it out. We're going to follow this discussion with a talk about embryo development. And there are three different ways or three different means of protecting the embryo, and we're going to break down each way a little later in the lesson. So let's start off with fertilization, and we'll look at internal fertilization first. So in internal fertilization, the union of the sperm and the egg that occurs inside the female organism. So the sperm and the egg, they fuse, they come together, they join inside of an organism. So let's look at the images just to get a visual understanding. We have a sperm and an egg. We have that same sperm and an egg a little bit later, but you'll notice it's inside of an organism. So I'll circle it just so you can see it. The sperm and the egg, they come together inside of the pig. This is just an example. Now, if we contrast this with external fertilization, the union of the sperm and the egg occurs outside of the female in external fertilization. So let's look at the visual diagram for a better understanding. We have the same sperm and egg. Well, they're different actually, but they're different because now this sperm and egg, they're joining outside of the female, outside of the fish. So I've just circled it once again. So internal fertilization, when the sperm and egg fuse inside of an organism. External fertilization, when the sperm and egg fuse outside the organism. So there are some advantages and disadvantages to internal and external fertilization. I'll just highlight a few. So firstly, internal fertilization often at times is more safe because that embryo, that baby, it's growing inside of its mother. The mother's physical body is protecting that baby from predators. Internal fertilization, there's often at times more nutrients for the embryo because once again, that embryo is growing inside the mother. The mother's nutrients are being directly transferred to that embryo. And finally, there's less chance of predation because once again, in internal fertilization, you are inside. The embryo is inside of the mother. Some of the cons, internal fertilization often at times can require specialized reproductive structures. There are fewer offspring in general just because internal fertilization, having an embryo growing inside of the mother, that takes a lot of energy. Therefore, that mother will likely have fewer offspring because each offspring requires more energy. And another pro of internal fertilization is that fertilization is more likely because once again, the sperm and the egg, they are coming into close contact with one another inside of the female. In external fertilization, the sperm and the egg are released into the river or the stream, for example, and the probability of the sperm and the egg coming together in the sea is much lower. So there are three ways. Once fertilization occurs, a zygote is created and the embryo is formed. And now the question is, how is that embryo protected? There are three ways an embryo can be protected. There are more than three, but here are three ways. Through seeds, through an egg, and finally, by the mother itself. So, seeds. A seed coat protects the developing plant embryo from drying out. So in this diagram, I'll just write seed coat so that you can see it's the black structure. So this developing plant that I've circled, it can be protected by a seed coat. That's one way an embryo can be protected. Another way is an egg. So often at times, some organisms such as a chicken or a hen, they lay eggs to protect their embryo. And there are different structures to the amniotic egg. First off, the shell. That's obvious. The shell protects the embryo from physical damage. So I'll just write the word protection. there's an albumin, and that albumin is the liquid structure inside the egg that acts as a cushion. There's the yolk sac, which provides nutrients. So I'm just writing one word for each part of the egg to get a better understanding. There's the amnion and chorion. Those are involved in gas exchange. So exchanging carbon dioxide and oxygen. Once again, this embryo is inside an egg. So in order to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide, it has to be able to do so. And the amnion and chorion help with that. And finally, the allantois. The allantois, which I'll write up here, it serves as the waste beaker. So this embryo, it produces waste, just like all other organisms. And in a shell, that waste can't escape. So the allantois, it acts as a waste beaker. All of the waste is collected in the allantois. And finally, the third way an embryo can be protected is through the mother. So the human placenta, just humans as an example, it provides human embryo with nutrients. So the mother, the embryo, it's growing inside the mother. And the mother, the organism, it's protecting the baby. This is just, this is not a real image, but it just shows other animals that are growing inside of their respective mothers. So that concludes this video. Hopefully you were able to understand better the difference between internal and external fertilization. And hopefully through this video, you also were able to understand 3 ways that an embryo or a developing baby can be protected. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you.